Hello, welcome viewer. I am Shadow, your dark host this night, here to bring you a Nightlord's Guide to the Galaxy. For you see, viewer, all must be prepared to face the horrors and tribulations that this wonderful galaxy will throw at us. So take a seat, get comfy, perhaps take a peek under your bed just in case, for tonight we will be looking into the abominable Khrave, the galaxy's very own terrifying psychic parasites. From the few records that I was able to borrow, the origins of the Khrave is steeped in mystery. From what is known, however, the Khrave are an immensely ancient species, having existed long before the Eldar Empire and quite possibly the fabled War in Heaven. From a record borrowed from the Dark Angels, the Khrave have a lord known as the Autochthonar, said to be the most ancient and first of all Khrave. The Autochthonar is said to have been created as a weapon. Unfortunately for its long-forgotten creators, the Autochthonar was able to gain the ability to reproduce and became free to plague the galaxy. The Khrave are one of the most enigmatic of the galaxy's myriad Xenos species, seemingly being both creatures of the material world and of the immaterium. These abominations have immense psychic power, with the oldest of Khrave rivaling or perhaps even surpassing the psychic ability of the most powerful of psykers. Records indicate that ancient Alpha Khrave are able to root their psyche into the minds of mortals, psychically controlling their host victim as well as additional psychic thralls from incredibly long distances, being even star systems away. A Khrave can turn their host, whether the host was a psyker or not, into an Alpha Plus psyker, while additionally keeping their host alive from even the most direst of injury. The strongest of Khrave can control thousands, if not millions of thralls to do their bidding. It is noted that the older a Khrave is, the more potent their psychic abilities become, with some of the most powerful Khrave outliving literal stars. Physical descriptions of the Khrave varies, with some accounts describing the Khrave as a 3-meter-tall arachnid-like abomination with no facial features whatsoever, just a blank and smooth head. Other descriptions portray the Khrave to be a tall, bat-like monstrosity, harkening to the old vampire legends of older. These Xenos feed on the minds and seemingly the souls of entire populations of planets, often making their victims into practically docile cattle. From then, the Khrave will feed on generation after generation, until they leave behind a world completely devoid of sentient life. Though thankfully, the Khrave normally only would predate on victims in the galactic north and around the Ghoul stars, an area of space where it is speculated the Khrave had dwelled in for eons. Humanity's encounters with the Khrave appears to begin all the way back during the Age of Strife, in which multiple advanced human civilizations in the galactic north were wiped out by the parasitism of the Khrave. Speculations note that the Khrave were likely emboldened by the collapse of the Eldar Empire and humanity's First Empire, striking out further and further into the galaxy as time marched on. This seeming golden age for the abominable Xenos, in which they took advantage of the strife and misery of the galaxy, would meet an untimely end, however, with the beginning of the Great Crusade. With humanity reaching out for the stars once again, the forces of the burgeoning Imperium would start to clash with the Khrave once more. The first recorded encounter and clash between the Imperium and the Khrave would occur on Serac 17, during the planet's compliance by the 12th Legion. Not much is known of the encounter, unfortunately, only that the newly dubbed World Eaters were able to succeed where others had failed and completely butchered the Khrave and their thralls. The Khrave would be encountered again during the compliance of Idris Sol by the 19th Legion, the Raven Guard. Once again, the Khrave were slain by the Astartes, led by their Primarch, Corvus Corax. These encounters, however, would pale in comparison to the Muspel campaign, in which the Lion and the First Legion, his Dark Angels, would face the largest concentration of Alpha Khrave, led by the Autochthonar himself. This battle would see millions of Khrave thralls, an unknown amount of Alpha Khrave, and a literal Khrave Titan, an amalgamation of a multitude of Khrave minds, assault the Dark Angels. The battle against the Khrave menace would force the Dark Angels to utilize weaponry from humanity's Dark Age technology. The Dark Angels would take severe casualties but would win the day with the destruction of the Khrave Titan, as well as the slaying of the Autochthonar by Lion L. Johnson himself. With the killing of so many ancient Alpha Khrave as well as the Autochthonar, the threat of the Khrave to the galaxy would be greatly diminished. Even with this major blow, however, the remaining Khrave would still plague some worlds throughout the Imperium's history, as early as M39 and M40, with infestations of Khrave on Cormac Secundus and Raphael and Lower Borea being liquidated. There are some theories that the Khrave likely contributed to the old legends of vampires, though this, unfortunately, is really only speculation. Though I believe it would certainly make sense, as there has been a precedent for the existence of vampires in the galaxy before, being creatures of the warp, something that would indeed fit what the Khrave are. Not to mention also how the Khrave can psychically root their minds into a host, using the host as a guise to remain undetected. Some also theorize that the entity known as the Cacodominus, the abomination responsible for the howling in M34, was potentially another form of Alpha Khrave. Though, with how little information is known of the subject, this is also only speculation. As for my own thoughts on this terrible brand of Xenos, I find the Khrave to perhaps be one of, if not the most terrible of Xenos species to have plagued the galaxy. With the ability of a single Khrave to bring a world to its knees from a potential star system away, it is no doubt in my mind that the galaxy at large is lucky that more of these abominations are not common. With that said, I find the Khrave to be a very interesting species of Xenos that we often don't get to really see. I also find it a crime that they only really have one real picture, being the giant bat, which, granted, is really cool. If you wish to read about these abominable beings yourself, I recommend checking out the novel Lionel Johnson, Lord of the First, a very good story of the Lion and the Dark Angels during their campaign on Muspel. With that, viewers, that brings this episode of A Nightlord's Guide to the Galaxy to a close. Thank you for watching. Rest well this night, and let me know your thoughts on the Khrave in the comments. Ave Dominus Nox.